Okay, friends, I'm at Intellicast.com. We just had two earthquakes, 7.5, another 7.7, actually a 4.7, a 4.5, a 4.2, a 4.8, and I'm not sure how many more. Let me move this up some more. Yep, that's what we've just had, guys. So I'll put this video up. Holy mackerel. January 5th, 2013, 8:58, all the way down to 9:41 GMT time, whatever that is. Love ya. God bless. Bye-bye.
Live, this is One for the Record. I'm Diana, and today is January 5th, 2013, and here are your updates for today. Extinction Protocol 2012 and beyond. Earth in crisis. Is the planet on the verge of a meltdown? Ooh, and they're talking about how there's more volcanoes, the climate is shifting. Who knows? Also, let's see. Croatian Times that the planet could be cracking up after a series of massive quakes in just 48 hours. All kinds of stuff like that. Earth physicist says 39 quakes hit the globe within 2 days in April. Wow. The series started with 2 massive quakes in Indonesia, measuring 8.6 and 8.2 on the Richter scale. Alrighty then. Blistering heat grips Argentina. Power outages, gas shortages reported from increased demand. Heads up. Polar bear dies from heat stroke. And the bear was in Buenos Aires Zoo. He overheated, poor thing. This is reporting there was a powerful 7.5 magnitude earthquake strikes southeastern Alaska today. Now, actually I have reports coming in that it was a 7.8 and another report saying it was a 7.7, so I don't know why they're downgrading it. And that's off the shore of Alaska. Okay, by Juneau, Alaska. A powerful earthquake sparked a tsunami warning for hundreds of miles of Alaskan and Canadian coastline. But then the alert was canceled. So heads up. Lots of aftershocks, too. Mount Vesuvius, living in the danger zone of one of the world's most dangerous volcanoes. And that's in Italy, and they're talking about what happened before in the past. Pronounced climate extremes continue across hemispheres. Tasmania has hottest day on record. And it says a wool shed goes up in flames near the Carleton River in Tasmania, where up to 80 buildings were destroyed. Alrighty then. It's terrible. So, heads up. .6 magnitude earthquake strikes Sicily, and that was yesterday. So, moving on. The Watchers watching the world. NASA considering an asteroid return mission. Heads up on that. Who knows what's in that? What kind of germs are in there? Microbes. I don't know if that's a good idea. Moderate solar flare reaching magnitude 1.7 erupt on region 1650. Massive earthquake magnitude 7.5 struck near Alaska. Alaska is cooling down despite a trend of global warming. Okay, that's it from today. Moving on. Can't find my sunglasses. I'll have to find those. Those are prescription. Oh, no. Alright, here we go. E&E News. Energy News. Fukushima film. Stores were looted on 3/11. Everything stolen. Media reported everyone standing in line. Government said only beautiful things. Also, NHK. Radiation levels increasing at Fukushima plant. No solution to tainted water. Hundreds of tons flowing into reactor buildings every day. Heads up. Also today, official to man serving on a slice of bread. Why don't you go to Fukushima Daiichi? Lots of jobs there. Oh my goodness. Also today, a nun's warning. I just came back from Japan and Fukushima, and I hear already many children start getting sick. Yesterday, Mayor, particles were falling on us from sky radioactive dust after Fukushima Unit 1 exploded. I'm not sure if this is related, but I have a cyst in my thyroid. Alrighty then. U.S. Canada. Let's see what's going on. See if anything else is on here. TV. Sucking and blowing from tank on trouble oil rig in Alaska. There may be a breach of those fuel tanks somewhere. Officials caught rehearsing on conference call. There you go. And that was on January 4th. And again on January 3rd, government map. Fukushima fallout transported directly to U.S., Canada. Mexico avoided much of contamination after 3/11. Alrighty then. So, what I'm going to do is attach Dr. Deagle's Earth Changes part on his Nutrimedical report. I'm just going to try to just upload just the Earth Changes. Alrighty then. Heads up. One day down to the weekend, one more to go. See you again on Sunday. Please be safe and be prepared for anything.
And we're back, joined with Ann Morrison and Alexander Bachman. And I'd like you to kind of update what's going on in the jet stream, the ozone layer, the weird things going on in our planet. And by the way, I pulled up some more information about this asteroid that's coming by, or comet that's coming by, called the 2012 DA14, which is going to whip by on my birthday around 179 meters, which is around almost 800 feet, whipped by the Earth. The report that I saw said it was going to be between 21,000 and 35,000 miles off the surface. The report you had back in May suggested the calculations could be as close as 5,000 miles.
This is closer than actually many of our communication satellites. That gives you an idea how damn close it is. It's really, really close. This is not a minor object. It's a really big object that if it ever hit the Earth, which it is going to pass by the Earth in 2020 and I think 2028, it returns. And they're saying, oh, don't worry about it, it's not going to happen. But tell us what's going on in the jet stream and elsewhere, because there's some very weird weather in Russia and in China and elsewhere, and we have some bizarre signs in the heavens.
Well, we do have this asteroid 2012 DA14, and we've been mentioning it on your show for at least half a year, maybe three-quarters of a year. And it is going to pass it's going to pass inside the geocentric orbit of satellites. Now, the reason that they call it geocentric Earth orbiting satellites, GEOS, is because those satellites are put just inside the magnetosphere. So they know where how far out the magnetosphere extends from the Earth, and they place these satellites so that they're inside the magnetosphere. And that's to protect them from the solar wind, which comes from the sun, and also from the interplanetary magnetic force, which mostly comes from the sun. And this asteroid is going to cut closer to the Earth than those satellites are. Now, we routinely beam information up to the satellites and then back down. In fact, probably everybody I know gets their news and entertainment from satellites one way or another. I mean, it may be from a cable company, but the cable company is using a satellite. And this asteroid is big enough that it could wipe out an area the size of the country of Luxembourg. And that's a big size event. Now, they do say that if you have a telescope or very good binoculars that are on a tripod, I'm going to read this directly so people can line it up. It says, the asteroid will travel rapidly from the southern evening sky into the northern morning sky, with its closest Earth approach occurring about 1926 UTC, which would be, we subtract 6 from that, 6 from 9. What? About 6 o'clock in the morning, I guess.
Yeah.
Is that about right? 6 from 13. No, it'd be about 1. I don't know when it's going to approach then. UTC minus 6 would be 1326. That would be 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So I don't know that we're going to be able to see it, but we should be able to see it. And you want to look, what they say, from the southern evening sky into the northern morning sky. And we're not going to be in the evening time. We're going to be in the daytime. So it's going to be on the other side of the Earth. But the people on the other side of the Earth, if they get out a telescope or binoculars, and it says about 4 minutes after its Earth close approach, there's a good chance it'll pass into the Earth's shadow for about 18 minutes or so. Now, that doesn't mean we can't see it, because it doesn't just appear instantaneously and then disappear instantaneously. It's just that we won't have the best viewing advantage. So if we wait, or if we look the night before, we may be able to see it. Or if we look the night after, we may be able to see it. Or you might even be able to see it in the daytime, because this thing will be reflecting the sun. And it's big. It's the size of 3 football fields. That's not a small piece of rock.
No, that's a big piece of rock. That's a big piece.
Yeah. And so we've got that to look forward to. Now, we think that it
looks like we may have lost our connection with Ann. While we're waiting for Ann, Alexander, are you there? We didn't get Alexander. Okay. So, before Ann comes back, let's reconnect with her. What I think is coming, and this is just the best analysis at the moment, and it's going to change as we get more data, more information, more corroboration. 2013 is going to be a year where we're going to have financial gyrations. We're likely to have some form of bank holiday for 5 to 10 days at least. We're going to have a gun grab attempt. We're going to have state nullification of much of these federal laws. And we're going to have further divisions in the states that are not going to cooperate with Obamacare and these exchanges for the Obamacare. We're also going to have further legal challenges. We have one from our Association of Physicians and Surgeons, the same association that both Rand and Ron Paul belong to. I have for decades. And that means that Obamacare probably is going to be piecemeally pulled apart. It's not going to exist. By the end of this year, I expect a good chunk of Obamacare will be gone. The good parts that are there, such as stopping pre-existing conditions, will remain. But I think the bad parts are no cost containment, these death panels, etc., and these exchanges, and the stupid things that are in it, like mandates, etc., like mandated vaccines. They're all going to be gone. And I think you're going to see increasing use of state nullification to get rid of them. And let's get back to your comments about the what's going on with our space weather, etc., and these asteroids.
Yeah, anyway, I think that this thing is going to hit on the other side of the Earth, if it hits. And if it does, it'll wipe out a piece of land the size of the state of country of Luxembourg. Now, you have to understand, when they say that the Earth's surface is 75% water, they're not talking just about the northern hemisphere. They're talking about the whole surface of the Earth. In the northern hemisphere, it's only about half water. So it has a chance of hitting Earth. It would be worse if it hit water. If it hits water, it'll throw a lot of water vapor into the air, and we will have what's called an impact winter, which wouldn't be too bad because it would solve the drought problem. Anyway, as I look at the jet stream, it's coming down from the Arctic Circle into right at Russia. So you can say that Moscow and surrounding territories are going to be mighty cold this week, and also northern China. In addition, it's coming down over Canada, and there's a big high right over Lake Superior. So it's going to be very cold in the northern section of the country. As far as the southern section of the country, it's covered by a jet stream that is coming from Hawaii. I know that you've heard about the Pineapple Express.
Oh yeah.
So it's going to be warmer in the southern part of the country. So we've got two jet streams. We've got across the United States. The upper one is cold, the lower one is warm. And here in Missouri and probably in California too, we're going to be between the two, which means that we could have some storms travel through that clash of airstreams.
Amazing. And of course, they were having sunburns in Colorado because the ozone layer is thinner, UV light, and you mentioned about the particular position of how close the sun is to the Earth. That is called? And there's some more things in space weather. We always have the conditions in the next 2 years that we're likely to have a major CME that will cause a Carrington 1859 type event. If that event happened today, most of our communication satellites would be gone. Our ground level power transmission lines and the transformers would be gone. And it would be a minimum of anywhere from 3 to 6 months minimum if all the internal production and distribution was working, but could be up to as long as 3 years to repair the distribution power networks. We don't have redundancy or backup power protections for the power grid, which was passed as a bill 3.5 years ago by the Congress, believe it or not, by the Congress bipartisan, but blocked by the Rhino Alaskan Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski. So I know Michio Kaku's called for this. There's 40,000 scientists in his scientific organization. I've called for it repeatedly, and so have you. This government better get off their stick, because there's one thing that's going to really clobber our civilization in the next, say, 2 to 5 to 10 years. It's going to be a CME that's going to knock out all our toys, our power distribution network, our ability to pump gas, and the pandemonium that will ensue will be unbelievable. And it won't be controllable by the police or military, because when people are starving to death, you can't control them, even if you've pretended to think that you've disarmed them. Ha ha ha, as if that's going to happen. So tell us more about space weather, about what's going on in terms of these other issues like this building characteristics of another possible CME. Yeah,
that CME for the caused the Carrington event it was finally rated as an X-54. Now, if that happened today, it would be like you said, because we're so intertied now with wires, and essentially what happens is the flare will hit, and almost immediately, within 5 to 10 minutes, there'll be a bathing of the surface of the Earth with ultraviolet radiation. Now, you're not going to get much.
You'll get that before you even get the electromagnetic surge. In other words, the first thing you'll notice is that you're getting burnt, or your skin's been flicked by a real strong elastic, or your eyes are on fire. Before even the EMP pulse knocks out the power grid, you're going to notice that things don't feel right if you're outside.
That's right. That's right. And you better, the thing to do is to keep track of what's going on in the sun. For instance, right now we have a sunspot has been designated AR 1640, and it has developed a beta gamma delta magnetic field. Now, that's important because the flares that have a beta gamma delta magnetic field more often than not will put out a CME, a coronal mass ejection. A coronal mass ejection takes 2 to 3 days to reach Earth. But when it reaches Earth, and if it came from an X-54 flare, then it will it will disturb the magnetic field of the Earth to the extent that we will have all sorts of bizarre things happening. I mean, you'll see auroras in the middle of the day as far south as
the equator.
Yeah,
the equator. Yeah.
And you'll want to protect your head, so you'll want to get into something that's magnetic. I got an old dryer downstairs. I'm going to ask my son to take the drum out, and I'm just going to get inside that.
I think people understand that these magnetic pulse things can directly affect your brain. One of the weapons, and I've had people requesting for me to tell them what weapons. One of the weapons is actually the UN are now being issued these dazzle guns, which are basically high, 100,000 candle power LED light guns with a big pad. If you actually pulse that light at the frequency of the alpha waves of your brain and pair it to an infrasound generator that generates subsonic sounds at the infrasound frequency range and pulse it at the rate of the alpha rhythm, and you point it at someone, it'll make them seizure. They'll seizure like crazy. All you have to do is pulse it. You get what's called brain entrainment. Now, when you have a pulse from the sun and it hits a pulse magnetic, electron stream like this, it's going to disrupt normal brain activity. It, may not necessarily knock people down, but they're not going to be normal.
And in fact, it will affect the temporal lobe more than it will affect the other parts of the brain. And that's the brain that we use to think with. And in fact, they're already using magnetic pulses as the modern form of, well, they used to take the temporal lobes off when people were depressed, hoping that they wouldn't think so much, and therefore they would be more passive. And then they used the electric. I
guess it does help when you cut off that part of the brain. Hard to think when you don't have that part of your brain. It's gone.
Right, and then they use electric shock therapy.
Yeah, transtemporal, ECT.
Yeah, across the temporal lobe. And now
flies to the cuckoo's nest, right?
Yeah, one flew over the cuckoo's nest. And now they're using magnetic fields, and they use that to cross that part of the brain, the front part of the brain. Yeah, well, they're doing research at the University of Ontario, Canada, on transcranial pulse magnetic field. You can actually use the kind of waves that we have, which are healthy ones, like the Somopulse, Metathera, etc., for actually doing transcranial positive stimulation of the brain. But the kind of pulses that are going to come from the sun is a steady stream of electrons that's really going to polarize different areas of the brain and going to disrupt normal brain intercortical activity. So, it's going to cause strange animal and human behavior. That's why in advance of a major earthquake, there's a change in the magnetosphere and there's a change in the polarity of the various nuclei in the brain, and they start acting weird. That's why you see snakes crawling out of the ground from the telluric currents and insects going crazy and animals getting disoriented. It's a warning sign. Yeah, and I encourage people to get some kind of magnetic mental Usually it's steel, helmet.
We're going to bring on, less EMF, because they have little wire mesh things you can shove inside a regular hat rather than having to work around with looks like a steel hard hat. But there are ways of getting a Faraday cage, and that you can slide inside a leather or a normal quote hat. What people should realize is that all electronic equipment, if they don't shield it with a Faraday cage type device, it could get fried. I can't tell how bad it'll be. My guess is satellites will be first, power grid second, third will be electronics like computers, and believe it or not, the last will be cars. And the reason is cars are insulated because they usually don't contact the ground, and so vehicles, because they're in a big steel box, it's like a semi-Faraday cage, not exactly, but I think cars will be the last to go. If your cars go, everything else is already gone.
Okay, and what happened back in 1854 or 59, whenever it was, when the Carrington event occurred, was that our atmosphere was in good condition. That is, it had more oxygen in it, and it had an ozone layer in the stratosphere. If that same event were to occur today, that UV light, which did not hit the surface of the Earth back then, would hit the surface of the Earth now.
There's something else I want to ask you a question, and you're a scientist to be able to answer it. If we had a Carrington event, it's a plasma discharge, and you get different waves. The first thing that hits is a high energy, speed of light, ultraviolet light. The second wave is the high speed protons, and the last is a plasma, right?
That's my understanding. Well, the electrons come in before the protons.
Yeah, the electrons, yeah. So it's light, electrons, then protons, and then plasma particles. Now, what happens is, what the government's been doing, and I was going to be on this film that they put out, what are they doing in the chemtrails? And Anthony Hilder and his colleagues are doing the video, but they never got a chance to get down here to North County to videotape me. But I had first-hand information because I took care of the pilots flying out of Buckley and Peterson, that they were putting up nanoparticles. And I also had a chance to talk and interview directly Dr. Isley from the World Constitution Parliament Association, that's affiliated with the United Nations, a full evening in 1997. And because I took care of these pilots, they were shoving robotic drones at the back of Hercules C-130s, and they're putting these nanoparticles up at 73 to 80,000 feet. Now what they do is they're converting the atmosphere to a plasma. It's a paramagnetic molecule, nanoparticles of thorium. 1 in 50 thorium atoms is radioactive. Aluminum, which is also an incredible neurotoxin, and barium, which is 10,000 times more toxic than lead to the brain. And these actually turn the air and our troposphere into a plasma electron sink, if you want to call it. What a beautiful world it will be. Welcome back to the Nutrimedical Report. We want people to think positively about these things. You need to be aware. You need to be aware of what change is occurring, so that if you have a greenhouse, you can grow food. You need to be aware that if there's an ultraviolet surge from a CME, it can also wipe out the crops. A strobing of ultraviolet light, which I think happened, was it July of last year? We had a UV strobing. If that was really significantly worse, we could literally wipe out the entire corn crop or the grain crop across a huge swath of northern hemisphere. If it occurred across Russia, their buckwheat crop would fail. If it occurred here, our corn and our wheat and other grain crops would disappear. And the reason is all you have to have is UV shock, and they just stop growing. And especially when you have monoculture crops like these genetically modified or monoculture crops are more likely to actually be fragile to either pathogens or one type of toxin, because some other versions of that same crop genetically might be more UV resistant, but in this case they're not. For example, we know that certain flowers like the rhododendron caucasicum, which is a flower that grows up in the mountains of Georgia, can grow very avidly and fine at 14,000 feet, which the ultraviolet radiation would kill any other regular flowering plant. But these plants have a tremendous amount of antioxidants, which is why if you use them, which they put them in kefir yogurt, they have antioxidants that protect your brain and your nervous system and your heart. So there's a lot of science to this, but I think we're moving to a time where it's obvious with the jet stream, with the destruction of the ozone layer, with the destruction of the Macondo drill site 2 years ago, we're heading into an ice age. So if I was to say what's going to happen in the next, say, 8 years between 2013 and 2020, I'd say we're going to be obviously into a cooling period equivalent to a Maunder type every 360-year ice age. Number 2, we're going to have economic chaos. We're going to have a devaluation of the dollar, probably a bank holiday by later this spring, at the latest this fall. We're probably going to have a gun grab attempt, but it's not going to work. And you'll have state nullification occur. You're going to start seeing serious inflation. The way it'll happen is you'll see smaller sizes for different food, for example, at the same price. You'll see less things on the shelf as there's a contraction of availability. And you're going to see on the open market countries trying to bid, for example, the Chinese and others, to bid for our soy crop. And eventually we'll actually have to have embargoes where we'll stop shipping to countries, even if they can bid more for a specific crop, so the farmer is trying to stay in business.